Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The president's very concerned about the expiration of the unemployment insurance. We proposed a one-week extension at $600 so that while we negotiate a longer-term solution, at least all those people don't lose their money. And I'm surprised that the Democrats won't agree to that. They are insistent on having this as part of a larger deal.
A larger deal indeed. $600 went away last week for unemployment. The battle begins. We know what's going on in the health side of things. That is everywhere. But now we're in a situation that's much different because people worry about the health of their finances, which they have been for a while. But there's a lot of people out there that find themselves on the dole, not because of something they did, not because of poor work ethic or any of that stuff, just because the coronavirus has shown up, has devastated our nation and its economy, has slowed us down to a crawl, and has put us in a situation that you would have said, hey, 6 months from now, this is what you guys are going to look like here in the United States. We'd have said, no, it wouldn't. Steve Mnuchin there said, how about a week? How about just 1 week? And we'll get this thing hopefully sorted out.
Steny Hoyer and others understand that unemployment is supposed to be wage replacement, so it should be tied to some percentage of wages. We absolutely agree on enhanced unemployment. We want to fix the issue where in some cases people are overpaid, and we want to make sure there's the right incentives. But again, let me just emphasize, we put on the table a proposal. Let's extend it for 1 week at the same rate while we negotiate so we don't hurt the American public.
I don't think that's ridiculous. I don't think that's crazy. I don't think any of those things. Nancy Pelosi, what do you say?
Talk to President Trump. He's the one who is standing in the way. We have been for the $600. They have a $200 proposal, which does not meet the needs of America's working families. And it's a condescension, quite frankly, because they're saying really don't need it. They're just staying home because they make more money at $600.
Well, they don't make more money at $600, but are there people out there that have benefited from this? Yes. The state unemployment pays them X amount of dollars. Let's just say low end. Here it's $240, and you're getting the $600. Well, then you're at $840, and maybe, just maybe, you're making $700 a week. Which is more, $840 or $700? Are there some people who are making a lot less because of it? Yes. Are there some people, because of the business they were in, especially the service business, where they're making virtually nothing? Absolutely. But there's got to be some sort of middle ground. I don't know why we can't find that middle ground. They offered 2, you want 6. I would say 4 would sound good, but
the $600 is essential. It's essential for America's working families. To condescend, to disrespect their motivation is so amazing how insistent the Republicans are about a working family and their $600 and how cavalier they are about other money that is going out.
Cavalier! We're a cavalier in all this. Yeah, well, I don't want any more money to go out. It should be a clean bill. $400 sounds about right. Why don't you guys extend it through the end of the year? Takes you into 2021, where hopefully 2021 doesn't have a hold my beer moment to 2020, and we could start to rebuild this thing. It's going to take time. But we're piling on debt, on top of debt, on top of debt. You guys do realize, I want you guys to understand this, you do realize not only is there going to have to be taxes in the future to pay off some of this, there's also going to have to be cuts. Nobody wants that, right? Nobody wants that, but that's where we are at this moment in time. 400 sounds about right. I think we get 400. We make it a clean bill, which we won't, because everybody wants to put a bunch of crap inside their bills. You know that, and I know that. That's what sucks. But people are looking around, wondering to themselves, why have you done nothing? You guys are there. You should get some stuff done. It shouldn't be that hard to come up with a clean bill that helps the American people and at the same time at least tries to slow the amount of debt, because God only knows what's going to happen in the future when it comes to this damn virus. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me and text the program as well. Oh my, wearing a mask.
If you're saying we basically need 85 to 90% compliance, sounds like you just made a case for a national mask mandate.
You know, there's a debate whether a mandate actually does an affirmative thing or whether people will rebel against that. But it really has to be voluntary by the American people, whether it's mandated by a city like it was done in Phoenix or certain states. Public health messages, we've got to have mask wearing. If you have mask wearing, we can stamp this outbreak out.
Yeah. And I think if we're going to have mask wearing, not only could we stamp it out, but there's also a great case to start opening back up. If the mask works, guess what? We open back up. If they don't work, then why do I have to wear one? Should be that simple. And I don't know at this point in time, because every time I turn around, the one thing I do know is nobody really seems to know. Nobody really seems to know too much about this. As much as they learn, it's because it's novel. And they'll tell you, we don't know a ton. We don't know a ton. But the battle is on about mask, not mask. I went out this weekend very briefly. Went to get food at Walmart, and there was a bunch of people in there, and I did not see one person without a mask. It's been that way for 3 or 4 weeks. Kind of do the same thing every Saturday. Early, go in there, get my stuff, bounce, get out of there. Didn't see one person without a mask. Everywhere I've gone, there's been a mask. Everywhere I've gone, there's been people wearing masks by and large. Have there been a few people? Yes. Small percentage of people. Are the cases still pretty steady here in Arizona? They are, but they've been going down over the last couple of weeks. But in other places, they're starting to spike again. They're starting to grow again.
And so I can tell you across America right now, people are on the move. And so all of our discussions about social distancing and decreasing gatherings to under 10, as I traveled around the country, I saw all of America moving. And I think it's our job as public health officials to be able to get a message to each American that says, if you've chosen to go on vacation into a hot spot, you really need to come back and protect those with comorbidities and assume you're infected.
Yeah. Smart. But, you know, it's funny because we don't know a ton about this and the comorbidities. It's pretty evident that there are just certain things that if you get this, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Doesn't mean it's a sentence of death, but for the majority of us, and I say the vast majority of the 99.5%, you're going to be fine. Some may get it a little bit worse than others, and about 85 to 90% may never even know they had it. But we've got to be smart about the way we're dealing with this. And we've turned this thing into a political nightmare. And we're yelling at each other. Every day there's a new viral video of somebody fighting against a mask or somebody telling somebody that they need to wear a mask and shaming them. It's idiotic and it's stupid. It really is. Dr. Birx, though, not everybody has confidence in her. Right, Nancy?
You accused Dr. Deborah Birx of the Coronavirus Task Force of spreading disinformation about the pandemic. Is that true? And do you have confidence in her?
I think the president is spreading disinformation about the virus, and she is his appointee. So I don't have confidence there. No.
There you go. Doesn't have confidence. They have confidence in Fauci because they like Fauci. They have confidence in Fauci because Fauci is... everything he says seems to go against what the president is saying. So they'll have confidence in him because they've made him a political puppet. Fauci doesn't want to be any of those things. Fauci wants no part of this BS. He doesn't. He doesn't want it to be politics, but it's become politics. Welcome to the world we live in. It is politics. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me, text the program as well. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. It was a nice weekend. Fed the lizards a lot. Probably overfed some of them, but they loved it. Just one of those weekends where I got to enjoy the 120-degree heat. It was so gross here. It was so gross. I was trying to tell people how nasty it is sometimes. They always say what they say when you move to a place like Arizona. This is dry heat. It's dry heat. Well, we're getting all of the stuff that looks like it should be weather, and none of that weather that comes with it. So instead of a dry heat, you have 110 outside with 50% humidity, which makes it a gross heat. Gross. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Rough Greens, my dog Doodle and I. I'll post a picture of Doodle and I. We hung out this week. We had so much fun. It was awesome. He's happy. He's bouncy. He's living life like he's never lived it before. When we adopted him, we thought everything was good. We thought he was a little bit younger than than he ended up being. And they said, he was like 5 when really he was closer to 9. And he had bad hips. And we struggled for years, to try to figure out what we can do with those things. And we couldn't figure it out. And we thought we were going to have to put him to sleep. But guess what? We tried Rough Greens about 3 months ago. Changed every single thing. Now, Rough Greens isn't food. You sprinkle it on the food, brings that food to life. It's got natural vitamins, minerals, digestive enzymes, omega-3, 6, 9, powerful strains of probiotics. It brings that food to life and gives them all the things they're missing in their food. It's head-to-tail nutrition for your fur buddy, and that's what they've been missing. 14-day jump starts, $14.95. See the difference it really can make to your dogs, whether you want to make them healthier or if you want to see if they've got symptoms. You want to eliminate those symptoms. Rough Greens is for you. $14.95 for a 14-day jump start. Go to roughgreens.com/Chad or call 833-MyDog88. That's ruffgreens.com/Chad or call 833-MyDog88. Rough Greens, we make any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
Boys, give me a bowl of chili with plenty of peppers.
One Mexican heartburn. Why don't you mugs grow up?
The Chad Benson Show, where independent a la carte thinkers have a seat at the table and a voice in the dialogue.
I'll have what she's having.
This is Chad Benson.
Astronaut Bob Behnken on planet Earth for the first time in 2 months.
We're both super proud to have been just a small part of the team that accomplished bringing those space flights back to the Florida coast and bringing that capability back to America.
The mission from the International Space Station made history, but what do you do on a 19-hour journey home? His partner, astronaut Doug Hurley.
Making prank satellite phone calls to whoever we could get a hold of, which was kind of fun, by the way. You can send him the bill for the sat phone.
Yeah, they're home making prank phone calls. SpaceX. It's very interesting, SpaceX. I don't know if you saw over the weekend that Elon Musk tweeted out that the aliens built the pyramids. And then Egypt tweeted out, no, they didn't. I don't know who I believe. Egypt, you've got a lot of issues over there. Find it weird? Let's be real. Let's look back at the ancient building of said pyramids, what they had at the time and how they built those things. But it's just very interesting. And these got SpaceX. They splashdown, too. That was kind of cool. I was like, I'm watching. I'm like, oh, Phil must be just like, ugh. Here they come.
I watched it.
I bet you did. It was everywhere, too, because it was on Discovery. And it was on C-SPAN. It was on all kinds of channels. I was like, this is cool. Kept flipping back and forth. I'm like, how do you have commercials in the middle of this? Hey, guys, can you delay it a couple minutes? We got to run a couple commercials. And when you guys land, remember, you guys got to say, where would you like to go? Disneyland. But you can't go to Disneyland because nobody can go there, but you kind of can, but you got to wear a mask. You guys haven't been here for a while. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. TikTok, the very popular social media giant that's out there taking over the world and the battle that goes on. Well, Trump wants TikTok gone. Has given Microsoft 45 days for an American buyer to buy TikTok. And the only buyer that's really serious is Microsoft. And he's given them 45 days to try to negotiate something. And look, I've said since day one, I don't trust, right? The kids love it, but be real. Understand who's made it and what they're all about in China. And they say, well, TikTok America is totally different. Here's the reality of the whole thing. BitDance or ByteDance, who is the developer of the whole thing, it's still Chinese. And at the end of the day, they're about getting as much information as possible. Even if you have the right intentions, their government doesn't.
In an internal email to his employees, TikTok's Chinese founder confirmed that U.S. federal authorities were pushing the company to sell off the popular social media app. Jiang Yiming, the founder of Beijing-based tech giant ByteDance, also confirmed that they've been in discussions with a U.S. company over the future of the video app. He didn't name Microsoft directly, though they are reportedly in negotiations to take over TikTok's U.S. business. The memo comes after President Trump said Friday that he had decided to ban TikTok in the United States, all this in the backdrop of souring U.S.-China relations.
Yeah, so the question is, how would you do such a thing?
The first one is that TikTok could divest its stake in the U.S. portion of TikTok and, give it over to Microsoft or to give it over to a different company. The other option would be to invoke something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And that would require Trump to basically declare some sort of national emergency over TikTok and then unilaterally under that, authority, ban an app.
And that would be interesting. I don't know. I mean, it's funny because the kids all have TikTok, and it's to see the way that people like. And just in case TikTok gets banned, it'll be tough. Do I think it can happen? Yeah, I do. I think something will get done. I do. But it puts TikTok in a very bizarre situation because you're now selling without the upper hand. You know that to keep it going here or to keep it alive in some way, shape, or form, you're going to have to divest yourself from it. Well, that makes you an easy target because you're essentially being told, take it or leave it. And people are like, well, it's just an app. Here's the thing. You think it's just an app. We bitch, whine, and moan about all the stuff that our phones do and how it follows us everywhere. Now throw in China into that mix. That's the scary thought. Throw that in there. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. People say, well, that's racist. Not racist. I'm talking about the Chinese people. I'm talking about the communist government. Because the reality is the communist government of China has a big plan, and that big plan simply is to dominate and take over the world. That is the plan. Period. Case closed. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show. Twitter and Instagram. This is the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
There's a camp in Georgia that CDC looked into. They were taking steps to try to mitigate the spread of this virus. For example, they were requiring people to show up with test results that proved that they were negative before they arrived. There were about almost 600 residents who attended the camp. 344 were tested. 260 were tested positive. This is kind of the nightmare scenario that most schools have.
Yeah, because kids can have it. I mean, that's, it's funny when you say, well, Chad, can they be spreaders? Nobody really knows. And I've never once said kids can't have it. Kids can absolutely have it. The difference is, how bad is it? When you go and you look at the data, and that's all we have at this moment in time, is a short-term data. This isn't six years. This isn't 16 years. We can't look back and say, well, look at the damage you did, or look at lasted a year, and eventually you built up T-cell immunity and a lifetime immunity. We don't know. What we do know, though, is when you look at the mortality rate, it is beyond extremely low. And somebody will point out, well, this kid died over here. And then you go and you look and well, the kid had type 1 diabetes. They were, and then they start listing all the issues. Nobody wants to see anybody die from this. But what do we do with kids? How do we get them back into school? Because there is a worry that once schools open up, if they do open up, it is going to be a breeding ground for this thing. And that is going to be passed on to, because the debate isn't the children at this point. I think the debate is the teachers and the administrators.
COVID's coming for us all. And the president trying to paint this narrative that children are somehow immune is dangerous, because what it does is it makes parents put their guard down when their guard should be up at a 5-alarm fire right now. And the big unknown here is what happens when children go back to school in poorly ventilated, often in urban areas, classrooms that don't have windows or barely have windows, so ventilation's not going to be great. Public school districts are going to be poorly funded. What we know is that children between the ages of 10 and 19 can just as easily transmit this virus as adults.
Yeah. But out of that, and I'd have never heard him once say they're immune to it. That's, once again, Dr. Gupta there. What I hear them say is the risk of them being extremely sick is small. And I've heard a lot of doctors say that the flu, in fact, we talked to Dr. Carmona, who is the former Surgeon General of the United States of America, say that the flu is, in many cases, far worse than this for children, but we don't shut everything down for that. But for adults, this is much worse.
So they're not immune. We just need to figure that out. And in that, no. I mean, they have virus in their nasopharynx, which means they very well could transmit it.
You could. Dr. Fauci there. Could they? Of course. Anything is possible. So when I talk about schools, I keep telling everybody, this isn't about the children. Nobody wants to see children get sick, but we can look at the data, and people say, well, would you send your kid to school? I'd have zero problem sending my kid to school. I had zero problem with Jack going back to school. Here's the deal. Jack's school's not opening up for a while. So that doesn't matter. And if you have a child that has underlying health conditions, or you yourself, well, that's a decision you have to make. Absolutely. We just need to figure out how we're going to play this thing. And I think for schools across the country, this first month is, or two potentially, is going to be nothing but online. Some schools will try to make a comeback. Some schools will go horribly wrong with how many kids test positive. And then you're going to hear stories of a teacher dying here, a teacher dying there. We had a story here in Arizona about a month and a half ago. We had a teacher die. And they talked about all this stuff. And then you find out, as awful as it was, and it was, there were no students. It was online teaching. She was with two other teachers, and they socially distanced and wore masks. And she had several underlying health conditions. It's about finding out the best way of bringing our kids back safely without putting as many administrators and teachers into harm's way. How do we do that? It's $1 trillion question at this point in time. But I think if you open up schools at this point in time, I think you're going to find it really hard to get everybody on the same page. I just think you're going to have some parents that don't want to send their kids to school. I think you're going to have teachers who are very unsure about coming back to school. And then at a certain level, I mean, you could argue, look, 5th, 6th grade and below, because they don't transmit as often, potentially, open up that. So elementary school and everybody else potentially online, at least for a while. But it's going to be up to individual districts and parents, because I have some friends who are like, I'm not sending my kid to school for various reasons. Some because they worry about this for their child. Others because they have underlying conditions, and some because they want a steady start without a stop. And I've heard that just as much as anything else. They want this to be when they open schools, kids go back to schools, and it doesn't become one of these things that 3 weeks in, they have to shut it down again. Then they open it up again, and then 6 weeks later, they shut it down again. They want it to be, hey, we're opening and we're doing this. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Speaking of schools and people with underlying health conditions, Bill Maher was very interesting the other night talking about the coronavirus and us.
Public Health England found that people with a body mass index of 35 to 40 have a 40% greater risk of dying from COVID. And over 40, it's a 90% greater risk. Even being mildly obese makes it 5 times more likely that catching the virus will land you in the ICU. And now, people are gaining even more weight. They call it the quarantine 15. Geez, I remember when plagues had a slimming effect on people.
Yeah. It's interesting. Obesity is a huge. Being out of shape is not good. I think all of us could probably lose a few lbs here and there, but how many people are working out on a daily basis? How many people are taking care of their bodies? It's hard. We eat ourselves in stress and boredom, too. It's not just stress. Sometimes you're just bored. You're like, I don't know what to do. So you start grazing all day. You're like, oh, I'll have some chips here, and I'll have some of this. Maybe I'll make myself something. Why are you eating? I don't know. I got nothing else to do.
I don't think it's a coincidence that the countries with the lowest rates of obesity have had the fewest COVID deaths. Maybe China isn't hiding all their COVID deaths. Maybe their secret is that their obesity rate is 6% and ours is 42%. And pointing all this out doesn't make me a dick. In fact, the shame is on everyone in media and government who is too cowardly to emphasize how important an issue this is.
Yeah. You can't talk about that, though. Barry Weiss was on with him over the weekend, too. She is the former, one of the former opinion editors who left and resigned a couple weeks ago from the New York Times. And she talked about the fact that can't say anything anymore. You live in fear 24/7, and it's all about cancel culture. And the best thing they could do is make you radioactive. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. But he's saying, look, I'm not a blank. This is it. But you can't talk about truth anymore. You can't, because it's about what? It's about feelings. Absolutely, it's about feelings. Feelings are the most important thing over facts, which is a bunch of crap. You can throw out facts and data, and you could do it in such a way where, you know what? I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm just throwing out what this says. Take it as you want it. But we don't. And part of that is because we take everything so personally.
But the people in charge of health during a health crisis, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx, Surgeon General Adams, head of the CDC, Dr. Redfield, National Institutes of Health Director, Dr. Francis Collins, they never really mentioned the one major thing most people could do to ensure a better outcome should they get it. To me, it's such a scandal these doctors won't look straight in the camera and say, the number one thing you can do to improve your chances is to be in better general health. And the number one route to that is an improved diet.
Yeah. All of us. Right? I raise my hand. Try to work out as much as possible. I do. Even today, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go in 110-degree heat and try to do 2 or 3 miles. Trying to work out as much as possible. Lifting my weights, doing the things I possibly can do, trying to have a better diet. And it can get tough. You can't. Especially for me, I work 18 hours a day, and I try to eat as many fruits and vegetables and things as possible. But I also know at times I eat crap. That's true. It is. But I think most of us can be that way. We know that. But if you eat a little less and you work out a little bit more, you'd be surprised at what you can overcome.
Because the virus made it an issue. Obesity was already killing us slowly, but you mix it with COVID, and it kills you fast. Look, no one deserves to die because of their weight, and we should spare no expense protecting vulnerable people no matter why they're vulnerable. But make no mistake, America fighting COVID is like a boxer who went into the ring out of shape and is taking a beating for it.
Spot on. He's spot on. But he's getting hammered for it because you can't say stuff like this. You can't say, hey, you know what? Being 300 pounds when you're 5'4" is not a healthy thing. It isn't.
If you're always on about how this is a life and death issue, and it is, we can't have body positivity be a third rail anymore. Political correctness can kill. I've seen it before. This issue is too fundamental to who lives and who dies, and to how successful America is going to be in getting out of this crisis.
You don't have to have a six-pack ab. Right? It's just about being fit. Fitter. We joke about it all the time here, but you can get out there. How do you lose weight? Work out a little bit more. Eat a little bit less. It shouldn't be magic, but everybody's looking for the magic pill. Well, if I do keto for 6 months and I do this, so that's, what's the reality of that, though? Holding on to something like that. Eat a little bit better, work out a little bit more. I have a thyroid problem. Then you need to get that checked. Find to the doctor. Doctor, what can I do? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from you. MyPillow. Sleep better. Sleep more comfortable. So I got my awesome bed, and I use my Giza sheets from MyPillow. And right now, MyPillow's got an amazing thing going on. That a BOGO. Buy one, get one free on all things. Giza pillowcases and sheets, MyPillow towel sets, roll and go anywhere pillows, duvet covers, necks and bolster pillows. You name it, they've got it. And it's awesome. It really is. And the buy one, get one is great because you get a 10-year warranty, a 60-day money-back guarantee. Everything's made right here in the United States of America. Great pillow that just helps you. And when I travel, I take my MyPillow everywhere I go. Now, if you go to the radio listener special page at MyPillow.com and use the promo code Benson, when you check out, if you order Mike's book, your entire MyPillow order will ship for free. Plus, you'll get a $25 gift card for your next purchase. Don't miss the opportunity. It's a buy one, get one free on MyPillows, duvets, and everything else. Check it out for yourself. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson at checkout. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
Taylor Swift's Folklore, setting records. Invisible Stream. The singer-songwriter's new album had the best sales plus streaming week of 2020, according to Billboard. And in its first week, it's already the best-selling album of the whole year. It also had the best week since Swift released her last album, Lover, last September. Folklore is Swift's seventh album, her seventh to debut at number 1, giving her the most albums to debut at number 1 by a woman. Tied at 6 are Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Madonna, and Britney Spears. Jay-Z is the overall leader with 14.
Jay-Z is... It's got to be amazing to think when you release an album that you know it's going to go to number 1. And I'm waiting for her. Like, Ellen's got the downfall right now. So they're coming hard for Ellen. She didn't have a chance. Apparently over the weekend, she basically told Warner Brothers and the syndicators and everybody, look, I'll just quit. You guys can have this. But more and more people now are piling on and crushing her. Brad Garrett came out and hammered her. Leah Thompson said the same thing. Like, it's knowledge. It starts at the top. She knows a lot of what's going on, and she turns her back in a blind eye. On top of that, she's done some stuff that's questionable. And, you know, they're coming. And we were talking about the fact that it used to be we'd love to see people built up, and then they build up, and then we'd knock them down a peg or two in this country for whatever reason. Too big for their britches. They thought they can get away with too much, and then we called them on their BS, and then they got knocked down, and then we'd love to see them rise again. Kind of everybody learned their lessons, because all of us have done that, right? Like, you just watch a movie. That's what it's about, right? You got the person who grows and does all these things, and then somewhere along the line that gets too much for them, and then they get knocked down, and then we want to see them rise up. Now it's different. Now it's just, let's punish. We don't want anything other than that. We want to see you rise, and then we're going to chop it down when we're done with you if we think you've crossed the line or you've done something. And once that's done, we want to make sure that we pour more gasoline on you, and you have no chance, because we're lighting this, to ever rise again. And that's insane. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Baseball is under a lot of scrutiny right now. A lot of people are saying this is what potentially kids going to school is going to look like because of more positive tests. So you had the Marlins with all of their team, basically. I mean, there was 19 players, 18 players, and like 2 or 3 members of this traveling team that tested positive. Then you had the Cardinals, and people are like, is baseball going to make it through at all? And Manfred, the guy who's running everything, said, yeah, we're going to do baseball.
He mentioned the players have to do better, and that really angered the players. They felt like he was finger-pointing. John Lester of the Cubs, for example, responded, I'm paraphrasing here, saying, hey, we're the ones who are taking the risk. But this is at the end of a week of finger-pointing from both sides.
Buster Olney right there. Yeah, players are upset, but the reality is what's he supposed to do? I mean, you put the testing in there. You have to be responsible as much as you can. Doesn't mean you're not going to get it. I mean, as responsible as you may be, You hear stories of people that, like, I didn't go out of the house for 2 months, and I stayed in. I did everything I was supposed to. I had my food delivered, and still there's a potential that they may get it because it is everywhere. But it's once somebody catches it. Because let's be real, the Florida Marlins weren't responsible. They knew players had it, and on a group text, they said, yeah, we're going to play. So you put other people at risk. So, yeah, you can point a finger and say, this is on you. You put other people at risk. You did. You can't blame everything on all the players all the time. That's ridiculous. But you could look at that situation saying you guys had some people that tested positive, other people were waiting for the results, and you still decided to go out and play a game, putting even more people at risk, not only for the other team, but your team. That's on you. Yeah, you can point fingers there. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Baseball's weird without the crowd. I watched hockey a little bit over the weekend. I think they're doing a pretty good job. And they're in a mini bubble. Baseball's not in a bubble, and that's why it's going to be way tougher for them than the other sports. And that's why I think the NFL and college football are going to have issues as well. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
You're saying we basically need 85 to 90% compliance? Sounds like you just made a case for a national mask mandate.
You know, there's a debate whether a mandate actually does an affirmative thing or whether people will rebel against that. But it really has to be voluntary by the American people, whether it's mandated by a city like it was done in Phoenix or certain states. Public health messages, we've got to have mask wearing. If you have mask wearing, we can stamp this outbreak out.
That's Dr. Charot. Yes, of course. That'd be awesome. Let's stamp it out. It's not going anywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. That's what it is. I mean, we're seeing places that even had mask mandates see a spread. It's everywhere. It's how can we combat it, mitigate the damage, protect the people that we need to, and lower the mortality rate. That's the best we're going to do. I've said since day one, no matter how we approach this, we're going to have to learn to live with it, around it, and through it. That's the only way we're going to get past this thing. Because even with a vaccine, let's just say today they come up with a vaccine. It is going to take a long time to get to the point where we implement it in a mass way. And even then, how effective will this vaccine be? Is it going to be 100% effective? Probably not. Is it going to be more like the flu vaccine, which would be 50% effective, maybe 60% in some years? Probably. So we're going to have to, if this thing is going to be endemic, I mean, it's not going anywhere. So the epidemic is certain areas have an issue, right? So in parts of Africa, they have the Ebola virus. That's epidemic. We don't have it here. Pandemic is global. Endemic means it's here. We're living with it and around it. It's not going anywhere. It's become part of something. The good news is the way we're treating it.
For treatments, we know that if you get COVID now, your chances of dying are incredibly less than they were in April because our healthcare providers know how to treat it better. We have effective therapies like remdesivir and steroids, promising therapies like immune plasma, and a vaccine really on the horizon.
Yeah, Dr. Giroux there, yes. And those are the things that matter. We've got better ways of treating it. We've got a better plan in how we fight this thing when you get very sick. We know exactly the people that this thing affects the most, and we're going at it in a much different way. But it's the long term that we're looking at this moment in time. Because at this moment in time, it is not going anywhere. At this moment in time, it is here. At this moment in time, it's the time that we live in. We can look towards 2021. We can look towards the future. But now, how do we live with it? And how do we live around it? That is what we have to figure out, how and what we do. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us, text the program as well. All that is going on. Everybody else is looking around going, okay, we get it. It's getting better and it's getting worse. Meaning, yeah, more people are coming down with it in certain areas, but people are living through it and they're getting it. In many cases, it's not affecting their health too adversely, but their paychecks have been affected big time. And the question is, what are you guys going to do in D.C. to help out?
The president's very concerned about the expiration of the unemployment insurance. We proposed a 1-week extension at $600 so that while we negotiate a longer-term solution, at least all those people don't lose their money. And I'm surprised that the Democrats won't agree to that. They are insistent on having this as part of a larger deal.
Well, here's the thing. Steve Mnuchin right there. I think everybody would like to see a deal get done where you guys aren't fighting every single week. There's better things. If you guys focused on the problems at hand and took them head on the way that you take each other on, my God, imagine the crap that we could get done. But because we live in a world of wins and losses, and the way that we judge, apparently, politicians, the way they judge success is not whether or not the people benefited from anything. It's whether or not their team wins and the other team loses. We need to figure out how we go about doing this in a right way that doesn't add any more debt than we already have. I mean, we're going to have to add some debt, but there's got to be a point where we go, okay, we can't add this amount of debt. We can add some debt. And how do we go about doing this in a right way? So you already get your unemployment from the state. So wherever you live, whatever that is, it's 240 here. I think we're the second lowest in the country in Arizona. But the average, I think, is about 400, 450. So you were getting about $1,000 a week if you took your 600 federal and your state. Over a year, that'd be $50,000. It's $50,000 where you don't have to work. To say that's for the average person is a super incentive to get your butt back to work, that'd probably be a lie. But I think most people want to get back to work, even if they're making less, because they feel like, what am I doing? How am I living my life? How do we go and replace some of those wages, but not disincentivize people? We want to incentivize them to get themselves back to work.
There's no question in certain cases where we're paying people more to stay home than to work, that's created issues in the entire economy. There are cases where people are overpaid. There are cases where people are underpaid. The issue is we need to come up with an agreement to extend this. We need to get kids into school. And we're going to work every day until we reach a reasonable agreement that's good for the American public.
And what is that going to be? Well, it's first and foremost going to be a little bit of give and a little bit of give. Pelosi, you know her. She's what? She wants to win. She wants to win. Because anything that could be seen as a success or something getting done, if the other side looks like that they're getting the upper hand based on some bizarre world of it should be about the people, well, then she doesn't want to do it. I've said $400 a week seems about fair. I think that's fair. Split the difference. She's not a split the difference kind of person. She wants all or nothing, which is what we've created in this world.
Talk to President Trump. He's the one who is standing in the way. We have been for the $600. They have a $200 proposal, which does not meet the needs of America's working families. And it's a condescension, quite frankly, because they're saying really don't need it. They're just staying home because they make more money at $600. I don't
know if it's a condescension. The reality is this is where the states need to be held more accountable. Your state would have done things differently, I think, had your state had to cough up extra money to keep you home. Maybe they would have enforced things earlier. Maybe they'd take a harder stance for a few months. But they had to pay out of their own coffers rather than the feds coming in and matching and surpassing in almost all cases those monies, maybe they'd take a different rate. I mean, a different look at it, a different route, if you will. $200, it's too low. $600, I think it is too high. I think there's an incentive there for, my sister's a perfect example. Able-bodied individual was making pretty okay money, is making far more money doing nothing. Are there other people out there that are making far less? Of course. But can we just split the difference and move on with our lives?
But the $600 is essential. But it's essential for America's working families. To condescend, to disrespect their motivation is so amazing how insistent the Republicans are about a working family and their $600 and how cavalier they are about other money that is going out.
Yeah, well, I don't like any. I just want it to be a clean bill. But being here in Arizona and fortunate enough to do what I do with my local show, I speak to a lot of business owners who, like, when we reopened, we couldn't find anybody going to come back to work. It was too tough. People would apply and nobody'd show up for the interview. And the reason is because why would you want to? So we opened up the phones last week and we're talking to some people who were like, yeah, I was, why would I want to go back to work? I was making $750 a week. One guy's a bowling manager of a bowling place. And he's like, I'm making over $1,000 a week now, or like $900. But then you've got the other side of it too. You have a lot of service industry people who are struggling because they can't go to work. And because of how they're paid, they're not getting even $240 from the state. They're getting like $100. So it's look, there's no perfect answer, but somewhere in the middle we split the difference and try to get past this. But it's hard when all you care about is your team winning and not the people winning. That's all you care about. You don't care about anything else. There's nothing else out there except win, win, win. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Will TikTok be around? Will they be bought? 45 days is what Trump is giving Microsoft. 45 days to come up with something when it comes to the social media giant that is TikTok.
I have been very opposed to TikTok. I was one of the first to expose the Chinese links. And I have urged that TikTok be closed down in America. There's a new proposal. Mnuchin and Meadows brought it up yesterday to have Microsoft take it over. There are some questions that have to be answered. How will the data be stored and secured? Do the Chinese have links into TikTok? So before I would be for such a merger, I'd have to get some answers to these questions.
I'm with Chuck Schumer on that. The answers are, what are you guys going to do about the coding? Producer Anthony and Phil and I were talking about it off the air. It's like they've coded it. They've put it together, BitDance. So what are you going to do about the coding? Because they've coded it. So what links are they still going to be able? What's the backdoors they've created where they can continue to look at data? And for a younger generation out there, a generation who wanders around with blinders on their, on their eyes, and all they do is opt into everything. 1984 has become opt in. That's something George Orwell didn't see. We opted in to Big Brother, but Big Comrade? That's a scary thought. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Gold going through the roof. Volatility in the stock market everywhere. The dollar weakening. What are you doing to protect your wealth and build on top of that? Probably not what you should be. It's about diversifying your portfolio. It's about creating even more for your net worth. Call 800-202-6936. There you'll talk to Valor Gold. Valor Gold Group is incredible. They've got time-tested, proven strategies that help protect against the volatility in the marketplaces, inflation, and crash potential. And now they want to show you how not only can they help you in the case of a marketplace that is overbought and stumbles, but also how to build onto that. They got 50 years of experience in the precious metals industry. Valor Gold does. Gold and silver qualified to be added to your IRA. Call 800-202-6936. You're going to get a free exclusive copy of the number one way to protect your wealth with confidence. And that's what it's about. In this business, when I worked in there for years, so many people want to put you in all kinds of stuff. And it's like, no, look, let me show you how you build wealth. Let me show you what you do. and the way you go about doing it. Because you want to protect yourself, but it's not just about protecting yourself. It's about growing and building wealth. And they want to show you how to do that. 800-202-6936 for Valor Gold Group, or go to valorgoldgroup.com/Chad, VALOR, goldgroup.com/Chad, valorgoldgroup.com/Chad, Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Let's find out what's trending around the world. The old internets of internets. Going over to the magical world of Google. XFL, Dwayne Johnson, apparently has bought the XFL with several other partners for $15 million. What? I know, right? Crazy. How about that? Lloyd & Taylor Men's Warehouse file for bankruptcy. Yet another retailer that is going down. Giannis Cespedes of the Mets, who had a great first week, decided he was done with baseball. Decided he was just going to opt out for the rest of the year because playing those 60 games just didn't seem like something he wanted to do. Oh man, that just seems like a lot. I'm like, really? And he's an interesting character. He just didn't show up. That's the way he opted out. Didn't show up. His agent's like, I don't know where he is. Going on over to Twitter. Replace Ellen is trending because why not, right? Like that's why not? You have to, right? You replace her because she's evil. She's totally evil. Tony Bennett turns, I think, 94 today. Florida. Florida is trending because Trump misspelled Florida, so that's why it's trending. And Microsoft and TikTok will be a marriage made in heaven. I have no idea. I don't know. Don't know if it'll get done. I think Chuck Schumer was right about TikTok. Want to know what's going on? I want to know how are they going to recode it. You're not going to pull it down, so how do you go about recoding it at this moment in time? I don't know. But TikTok is still usable, at least for now, and we'll see what happens. And I think that this is one of those things where I look and I think you guys have opted into something. I mean, everybody, you just don't know. By the time you find out who's the maker of it, you're like, uh-oh. So we'll see. We'll see what takes place. I have a feeling it will get done because somebody's going to come in and purchase it. What they get it for, that I don't know. What's it worth? Probably a lot less, a lot more than what they're getting it for. They're going to pay a lot less because they're in the catbird seat where they can say, you guys have no choice. You divest, you sell the American version to us, or it'll just not be here. And so you'll have 100% of nothing rather than 50% of something. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from you. We'll talk a little voter fraud or not voter fraud as we continue to throw about the will the mail work? Will it won't work? Can it work? Should it work? How bad will it be? Won't it be? It's just craziness. It's the mail. That's the problem. It's the mail. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Never in the history of the country, through wars, depressions, and the Civil War, have we ever not had a federally scheduled election on time, and we'll find a way to do that again this November 3rd.
But never in the history of the federal elections have we ever not held an election, and we should go forward with our election.
I don't think the federal government can... Well, I don't know. I think it's constitutionally set. Delaying the election is not the right answer.
The election is going to happen in November, period.
We're not going to delay the election. We're going to have the election completed and voting completed by Election Day.
I don't know about voting completed by Election Day. This was last week, Trump's question/statement. Delay the election? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Look, the voter fraud by mail is ridiculous argument. Oh, so much fraud. Now, if you want to talk about incompetence, don't confuse nefariousness with incompetence. Do you know how many people over the last several days after we started talking about this sent me these crazy ideas like, well, what you're going to do is you're going to get a bunch of left-leaning, radicalized mail carriers who will go into Republican areas and destroy all their votes. How does that work? I'm just curious. Because you're going to find out what the county votes. And if the county has 50,000 people in it, it's predominantly a Republican area, and only 4,000 people voted. I think people are going to raise a little stink, going, maybe need to look at this a little bit more. Right? No, it's not the way it works. It's trying to figure out, okay, let me squeeze this in with just so I can, he said something and I want it to fit the narrative, so I'm going to twist and so it will. It's the same way with the people on the left. It's like voter ID. Oh, it's suppression. Why is it suppression? Because it's hard for people to get an ID. Why is it hard for you to get an ID? Just tell me why. Well, because of, no, tell me. I want to know a real reason why it's hard to get ID. Why is it hard to get an ID? Tell me. Hell, in some states, people come here undocumented. Some people used to call those people here illegally, and they can get licenses. You can't go get an ID to vote. In most states, you have to have an ID over a certain age. So tell me why it's too tough for you to get an ID. Tell me why. Both of them make these crazy arguments over stuff. Could there be voter fraud with mail? There's voter fraud already, but it's so small. It's so minute. One of the arguments is, well, let's not give people more ways to cheat. I'm like, we already vote by mail. Most people listening, you vote, you're an absentee voter or you vote by mail, depending on some of the states. A good majority of people do. It's a stupid argument. Could some things happen? Yes. But the reality of them happening in the way that people say is hundreds of thousands and millions of votes. Last week, people were trying to make the argument that's the reason that Trump lost California. I will tell you this right now. If you gave every Republican 2 votes in California and you made every Democrat's vote count as a third or a half, no Republicans winning there, minus a few small areas. So stop with your silliness, Stephen Miller.
Nobody who mails in a ballot has their identity confirmed. Nobody checks to see if they're even a U.S. citizen. Think about that. It's a simple principle. One citizen, one vote. Emphasis on the word citizen. Universal mail-in ballots are an attempt to dilute the vote of your viewers.
How about this? To get a mail-in ballot, to go in, you have to show ID. Right? Oh, my God. And then it's mailed to you. And from then on, go. Well, what if somebody takes it? It's always the what if. What if? I said, well, can't people cheat at the ballot box? Well, they can. Well, why don't we get rid of that then? I mean, if we're just going to get rid of every possible scenario of people cheating, why don't we just get rid of that? It's ridiculous. It is asinine. It is stupid. Both sides have some stupidity out here because their whole thing is the other team is going to steal some sort of part of an election and either by stopping people or by allowing too many people that shouldn't be voting to vote.
Picture all of us Americans in a car together.
This is Brian Stelter. It's kind of a boob, but I think you knew that.
Trump is the driver, and he is trying to drive us off the road, trying to crash the car. In this analogy, the car is our democracy. It is old, it's got a lot of miles on it, but it's still running strong. It stays on the road through voting, through elections. But the driver, I don't know, either he wants to go off-roading or he doesn't know where he's going. Something's going on with the driver. He's trying to crash the car, but all of us are along for the ride.
It's a horrible analogy. I don't expect anything different, though, from Brian Stelter. He's just wait, what?
The president's rhetoric about the coming election is the equivalent of trying to crash your car. He is eroding confidence in the democratic process. You know, this fall's election, culminating with a big broadcast on November 3rd, is probably not going to look like these past elections. You sometimes know the outcome by 11 p.m., a little bit later at night in 2016. 2020 is now an unprecedented situation. We're not going to be seeing balloon drops. We're not going to be seeing campaign stops with huge rallies in all these different states.
No, we're not. You're right about that. It's going to be very bizarre. Even one of the election officials today in Ohio said this is probably going to be a 2-week process. It probably is. For a lot of reasons. One of the things they're not talking about is how much litigation is going to come out of this? Because this is all setting up for litigation battles. We're going to fight you here because we think you cheated. We're going to fight you here because we think you suppressed the vote. We're going to fight you here because of this. We're going to fight you here from that. This is setting up to be a battle of 3 or 4 electoral college votes in certain states. And that's what this is going to be. And it's going to take time. Even if you had all the numbers in, the lawyers are going to step in. And the battle will be it'll probably take weeks.
Due to mail-in voting and other reasons, Election Day will be more like Election Week. That's the way to think about it. In fact, television networks like this one are already planning for much longer vote counting coverage. We're probably going to see long lines at poorly funded precincts. We're probably going to hear concerns about mail-in ballots and not getting delivered and counted on time due to Postal Service problems. And the president is going to keep lying about the likelihood of voting fraud. Lots of people will be left confused or maybe not even knowing how to vote at all.
Well, then you're an idiot. So right there, if you're confused and do not know how to vote, then you're an idiot. Because you'll be told eventually where you can either go to vote or if it's vote by mail. You'll be told that. I couldn't tell you today if I had to go vote in person where I'm exactly supposed to go because I don't know. Because it's moved around on a few occasions. We got elections here tomorrow night in the runoffs to see who's going to be on the ballot. But I know where to go then, but I couldn't tell you what's going to happen. But if you don't know how to vote on November 3rd, that is a you problem.
Y'all better wake up and get your act together. What's about to come is real. And the reason for that is not just how Donald Trump will behave, but how all the other elements and components of our democracy may or may not function as a result of what this man decides to do. And that's the element. Democrats, wake up. You cannot approach this election from a conventional perspective. Donald Trump will play you for a sucker in a heartbeat if you do.
Michael Steele, former head of the RNC, talking about it. Yeah, he will. They will absolutely play you. You cannot sit back on this. You got to figure out how you're going to fight him. And on the other side, Trump already knows. His biggest problem is finding out how to position Biden. And for me, if I'm him, I'm not positioning Biden in any way. I'm talking more about his vice president and where the party wants to go rather than Biden. Nobody dislikes Biden. Nobody hates Biden. That makes it tough. So rather than attack him, and maybe you go after him when you're on stage and some of the potential faculty mess ups, and maybe he goes after you if you screw up as well. But the reality is you go after a different Democratic Party where the classic liberal, right, in the liberal sense, the classic liberal is now considered right wing. With the average Democrat, it's considered centrist. You go after that portion of it, and it changes many things. Let Biden be Biden. And then when you have a chance to take shots at him, when you're in a position where you're facing him one-on-one, let that happen. Focus on they're going to want open borders. Focus on they want X, Y, and Z, whatever their thing is at the moment. Focus on the cancel culture that they're so excited about. Focus on things like that and the defunding of the police and things of that nature rather than sitting back and trying to figure out a way to attack Joe. Sleepy Joe. Stop figuring out nicknames. Allow him to be Joe. Focus on what's coming behind him because you already figure even if Joe won, the country, Joe isn't going to be your president. The people behind him will be pulling the strings, and those people are uber to the left. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me, text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. We'll talk a lot more about this because I think Trump is missing out on so much of the things that he needs to focus on because he's so busy trying to coin nicknames and do stuff. I mean, he's suspended some of his ad buys. They're having a tough time, just like the Democrats did with Trump. Well, Trump, you better figure out a way to roll this thing in a different direction. And maybe less is more when it comes to Joe and focus on the others because that may give you a long-term solution that you're not getting right now. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. That's your Twitter and your Instagram. All right, Car Shield, everybody out there, we're all looking to do what? We're all looking to figure out ways to save when it comes to everyday life. Car Shield is the perfect example of that. It's a way to protect yourself in the event of, with your car. Here's the thing with Car Shield. You get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. The shop's the shop that you choose. They've got plans starting as low as $99 a month. Maybe you're worried. It's so hot outside. What if my AC goes out? Cooling fans, timing chains, power windows, all of those things are common issues that over time, as cars last longer, you have issues with. They've got a plan for that. Maybe you're worried about the electronics in your car because your car's a little bit newer. They've got a plan to cover those things. It will save you huge money out of pocket. It's simple and easy. Go to carshield.com, use code Benson, you'll save 10%, or better yet, call 800-CAR-6000, mention my code Benson to save 10%. Be specific in what you're looking for, and they'll find a plan that fits you to a T. Carshield.com, code Benson, or call 800-CAR-6000 and use code Benson to save 10%. A deductible may apply. It's the Chad Benson Show.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
We are braced for splashdown.
Copy, brace for splashdown.
So there we heard Bob and Doug reporting that they are bracing for a splashdown as we're now just about 20 meters off the ocean.
Splashdown.
As you can see on your screen, we have visual confirmation for splashdown. Dragon Endeavour has returned home.
On behalf of the SpaceX and NASA teams, welcome back to planet Earth, and thanks for flying SpaceX.
We know you have many choices to getting to space. That's funny. Thanks for flying SpaceX. You'll notice at the front there are 2 emergency exits. They probably thought, well, I didn't think this thing was going to really work. That Tesla guy, man, he pulled it off, didn't he? What? It's pretty cool, though, to watch it. It's been a long time since we landed in the ocean, but we are back. Does this open up stuff? It totally does. You know, we're going to space. This is neat. This is exciting. You know, for all the crazy chaos in the world's coming to an end. Settle down. We've withstanded so much in our country. The world has withstanded so much. Everybody needs to take a deep breath and step your ass back. We're going to be all right. We're going to be fine. It sucks, but this is a huge pothole in the road. And the pothole was so big, it gave our car a flat tire. We had to pull over, and it sucks because we're having to make some phone calls, try to get a hold of stuff, and we got one of those stupid little donut things. You only go like 25 miles an hour, but everybody goes 55 anyways. And you got to drive your ass over here. You got to find out where you're going to take it, and then you got to go, oh, my goodness, it's going to cost how much to get this thing fixed? It needs to be aligned again. We're going to be fine, though. At the end of the day, car's still working. Everything's okay. We're going to be fine. Take a breath. We're going to space with the Tesla guy who shot something into space. What? A Tesla. Top everything else. And this weekend he tweets about the pyramids and the aliens, old Elon Musk. He's good fun. He's good fun. Oliver Stone.
What do you think of where Hollywood is now and the way people are so reactionary to social issues? And do you think people are handling it well, or do you think
I have no idea. I really am out of touch. I could tell you that if I made any of my films, I don't think I'd last. I'd be vilified. I'd be attacked, shamed, whatever you want to call that culture.
Yeah, Oliver Stone talking about his movies. He said, hey, I can't make my movies today. There's no way I could make the movies that I made years ago. Scarface could never have happened. Any of these films he did, now JFK could probably happen, but some of these other films just never going to happen.
I would have had to step on so many sensitivities. You have to have some freedom to make a movie, unfortunately, and you have to be rude, and you can be bad, and you can have to do these things like step on toes. Holy cow! Do you think I could have made any one of those films?
No, no, never. And you need that. You need to be able to do that. We're not talking about being mean to people. We're talking about taking a subject matter and the way that he's attacked it in controversial ways, even at the time, but kicking in the door and saying, look at this, look at me, look at that. Here's a perfect example of recent history. House, when they first made House, the thought process for House was, we're going to make him such a Richard because we want to make him like this, but we think that the executives are going to pull back. So if we make him overly awful, they'll tell us to pull back to where we want him. The problem was the executives loved it. That's why we love Simon Cowell. We used to watch that show. It wasn't about the singers. It was about Simon Cowell crushing people and telling them the truth in an honest way, but in a way that was brutal because it was part of entertainment. He got it. And you've got to be that way. You've got to be able to look at people at times and say, do you want my real opinion? Yeah, you suck. You're not a bad person, but what you're trying to do is you suck. I get people tell me that all the time. You suck, Chad. There you go. That's your opinion. Great. But we liked House because the way you couldn't do House today. You couldn't do House at all today. Could never happen the way that it did because of the way that he was. And a person like House, if real, would have a tough time maneuvering in today's touchy-feely world. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at me, text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. Check out the Instagram as well as the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And so I can tell you across America right now, people are on the move. And so all of our discussions about social distancing and decreasing gatherings to under 10, as I traveled around the country, I saw all of America moving. And I think it's our job as public health officials to be able to get a message to each American that says, if you've chosen to go on vacation into a hot spot, you really need to come back and protect those with comorbidities and assume you're infected.
Dr. Birx, we're entering a new phase, a brand new phase. It's crazy. We are in a new phase. Now, what do? Well, first thing we do is we take a deep breath. I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to be a little positive here. I know it's crazy. Everybody take a deep breath. Sucks right now that we're in this situation. Let's not be Debbie Downers. We're going to get through this. We're better than this. We're stronger than this. It sucks. Our government, like governments around the globe, have no idea how to combat this because the difference between government and health officials see Dr. Fauci. He comes at it from a perspective of, I want to keep everybody safe and alive. Government officials come from it. I'd like that too, but I also want to see people not be broke and lose everything. I've got to walk a different path than he has to walk. Here it is. At the end of the day, a little personal responsibility. It's not hard to wear a damn mask. You take away my freedom, Chad. Shut up. I went to Walmart, and then I went into another store to get some shoes. And guess what? Both of those say you're required to wear a mask inside of the store. Not the government requires. We require you to. Well, that's taking away my freedom. Well, why is it taking away your freedom? Just curious on that. If the store's asking me to do it, and they're a private entity, so they're their own, and they're asking to have you wear a mask when you go in there, that's not taking away your freedom. Little personal responsibility. We're going to get through this thing. Not going to be easy, but we're going to come out the other side. We are. The crisis is not helping the Republicans, in particular Trump. Shouldn't be a situation where we're talking about this in the world of politics, but we are.
You accused Dr. Deborah Birx of the coronavirus task force of spreading disinformation about the pandemic. Is that true? And do you have confidence in her?
I think the president is spreading disinformation about the virus, and she is his appointee. So I don't have confidence there. No.
Don't have any confidence. No. We'll be fine. Despite our leaders, we're going to be fine. Despite the people that are in place that are so busy wondering how they can get a political win on this, we're going to get fine and through this. It's going to be all right. It should be frustrating. If you just stood back for a second. Okay, so you have a confidence in Birx because of Trump. Because Trump is with Birx more. Because here's the thing about Birx. Fauci doesn't care about politics. He doesn't want to get into it. Birx, she'll wade into those things. Listen to Fauci here and Jim Jordan spar last week about stuff like protesting.
Do protests increase the spread of the virus? I think I can make a general statement.
Well, 500,000 protesters on June 6th alone. Yeah. I'm just asking that number of people. Does it increase the spread of the virus?
Crowding together, particularly when you're not wearing a mask, contributes to the spread of the virus.
Should we limit the protesting?
I'm not sure what you mean. How do we say limit the protesting?
Should government limit the protesting? Well, you just said if it increases the spread of the virus. I'm just asking, should we limit it?
So the battle begins, right? He doesn't want to get into it. He cares about the medical side of it. He does not care about the politics. But politics is what this is all about, right? Being woke. Remember? People went to Trump's rally, they die. People go protest en masse for days, weeks, and now in some places, months. See Portland. But because it's a woke protest, nobody gets sick.
No, I think I would leave that to people who have more of a position to do that. I can tell you.
Government stopping people from going to church, Dr. Fauci? I'm just asking, is there a world where the Constitution says you can favor one First Amendment liberty, protesting, over another, practicing your faith?
I'm not favoring anybody over anybody. I'm just making a statement that avoid crowds of any type, no matter where you are, because that leads to the acquisition and transmission. And I don't judge one crowd versus another crowd.
That they're trying to bring him in. Why? Because it's what you do. It's politics. We always talk about these things. I like Jim Jordan. He's an okay guy. I don't have any problem with Dr. Fauci. Oh, my God, he's evil. Settle down. My issue is the media pointed it out to be very woke. It's a woke situation. This situation here is woke. So ridiculous. It really is. You know what people care about? What's going on between these two parties in D.C., where both of them are coming out swinging when it comes to getting a stimulus deal done because they're unsure potentially where their next check is coming from of any significance, because some of them they can't work. Some of them they can only work limitedly, meaning their states have said, yeah, you guys can open, but only for takeout. Or, yeah, you guys can open, but it's only at 25% capacity. People are looking around going, well, hold on a second. What's going to happen? How do we get some money? What are we going to do? Well, for the last several months, the feds have kicked in $600 a week, on top of what your state's unemployment is. So if your state is paying $300, you throw that $600 on there, you get $900 a week. If it's paying $450, you get $1,050 a week. If it's paying $240 like here in Arizona, you get $840 a week. See where I'm going with this? It's not in all cases. Some cases, especially service industry, you're getting much less, but you're still getting that $600 Fed money.
Talk to President Trump. He's the one who is standing in the way. We have been for the $600. They have a $200 proposal, which does not meet the needs of America's working families. And it's a condescension, quite frankly, because they're saying really don't need it. They're just staying home because they make more money at $600.
Is that true? Well, for some it is. It's not for everybody. For some, it was a pay cut. They're making $1,500, $2,000 a week. And now they're making far less than that, even with this. But it is a helper. How long can the $600 go on for? And is it a disincentive for a lot of people out there that were making the same or less working to stay home? Yeah, that's more than been proven in several different areas where they're having trouble getting employees when they've tried to reopen, but then we shut down in a lot of places. Here's the thing. It's probably not going to be 600. It'll probably be somewhere in between, but at least Mnuchin offered something.
The president's very concerned about the expiration of the unemployment insurance. We proposed a 1-week extension at $600 so that while we negotiate a longer-term solution, at least all those people don't lose their money. And I'm surprised that the Democrats won't agree to that. They are insistent on having this as part of a larger deal.
Of course they are, because they want what they want. You guys want what you want. At the end of the day, it's all about a victory, and it should be about the people. It should be. This is unprecedented. I'm 49 years old. It's never happened in my lifetime. Never seen anything like this in my lifetime. Ever. H1N1? No. In fact, I don't even really remember anything from the H1N1. That wasn't too far ago. Too long ago. So, this is like nothing we've ever seen. We're going to have to go deeper into our coffers. We're going to have to take on debt, which I'm not thrilled about, but how much?
We have to balance. There's obviously a need to support workers, to support the economy, people who through no fault of their own are shut down because of this terrible disease. On the other hand, we have to be careful about not piling on enormous amounts of debt for future generations.
You don't care because all parties live in the kick the can down the road. Somebody else will pay for it way down the line. It's huge, the amount of debt that we're carrying on. Which it's nuts. And we're going to have to figure out a way to pay it back. And it's going to be through austerity measures and some of those big automatic spending things out there. It's going to be through cuts in the military. And it's also going to be in higher taxes. That's the price we pay for a horrible situation like this. But we will get through it. Now, if both these guys can get their heads out their butts and realize the best thing to do is put the people first, party second, let the politics be the politics. You guys got an election coming up. Why don't you guys try to figure out what you're better at than the other side and try to win us that way? It shouldn't be that hard. But all too often it is. Because it's much easier to make sure the other team doesn't get a win, as how you perceive it, than the people do. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson shows your Twitter. Tweet at us. Speaking of wins, you're going to want to listen to this. They're called Wounded Paw Project. You know, every day we lose on average 20 veterans a day to suicide. It is a hard fact that we shouldn't. We shouldn't. We shouldn't. We should take that fact and eventually make it zero. But that's where we are. Wounded Paw Project has done something amazing. They combine their love of dogs, their dedication to finding a way to help veterans, and they built the project, the Wounded Paw Project. It is incredible. Their motto is to save a paw is to save a life. What they do is they take dogs, sometimes hard case dogs. They rescue them. They train them to be service dogs and then get them to our veterans, our first responders, and their family. And let me tell you something. It is amazing to see the work they do. You see what's going on with our veterans. You see what's going on with our first responders and their family. They need your help right now, though. It's not cheap and it's not easy to do this. And you can give in several different ways. And one of them is donating your vehicle. You can go to woundedpawproject.org. Check out how you can do it. You can call 844-678-4PAW. That's 844-678-4729. Find out how you can take your extra car, truck, RV. Learn how you can donate it. Get a great tax-deductible gift. They also accept cash as well. It is truly a vehicle for change. Find out how you can take action today. Go to woundedpawproject.org, woundedpawproject.org. You'll be saving a paw to save a life. Chad Benson Show.
Take a fake news break. Check out the really important news of the day at our website, ChadBensonShow.com. Once there, click on Chad's free podcast and get real. The Chad Benson Show, where truth and the American way live. Print free.
We're looking at TikTok. We may be banning TikTok. We may be doing some other things. There are a couple of options, but a lot of things are happening. So we'll see what happens. But we are looking at a lot of alternatives with respect to TikTok.
TikTok. Could you believe Trump, when he thought his presidency started, that he would be talking about a virus and TikTok? If you don't know what TikTok is, it's a social media craze that's everywhere. Started out harmless, and we realized the Chinese were a huge portion of what the back end of it. So you got American investors, and then you've got BitDance, I think they're called, who put this thing together and created it. Well, it's a Chinese app, and this is the first one that's ever really taken noticed really outside of China. So you've had India ban it. Several other countries have banned it. And it's really grabbed a hold, though, of so many people. It's exploded. So you've got the socials that are out there. You got your Facebooks, right? You got your Instagrams and Snapchats and Twitter and whatnot. But this is growing so fast. And it's a Chinese app. And people are going, sorry. It's just, we're not allowing Huawei in here. We're not going to allow you guys in here. And you've already done it. People have opted into it. And how you guys are using the information is nobody really knows. And nobody trusts you. And you could say, well, the American version is totally safe, but nobody buys any of that, including, yes, somebody on the other side of the aisle, Chuck Schumer.
I have been very opposed to TikTok. I was one of the first to expose the Chinese links, and I have urged that TikTok be closed down in America. There's a new proposal. Mnuchin and Meadows brought it up yesterday to have Microsoft take it over. There are some questions that have to be answered. How will the data be stored and secured? Do the Chinese have links into TikTok? So before I would be for such a merger, I'd have to get some answers to these questions.
Absolutely. I'm with him on that. And he's there. Now, if Trump would have been the only one to say that, as he has been for a while, people would be like, oh, my God, he's racist, he's xenophobe. But no, let's be real. China wants to dominate the world. China's leaders, the Communist Party, want that. They don't want to share. They want to own. They want to rule. Period. Case closed. End of story. And my question, as Anthony brought up as we were all chatting, is who coded this thing? Well, the Chinese did. So what are the backdoor links they have into this? How does that play into any of this? How does that play? It's got to play. So how do in 45 days is what they're getting Microsoft. How do you go and make this thing something where you try to get in there and take out everything you possibly can and make it so we feel safe that, you know what, we already know that they use our information because we've opted into everything. But mostly it's for stuff like, I don't know, the insanity of buying something. You ever thought, oh, I'm going to look at this. And then everywhere you go, that's all you get. We understand that with the algorithms. This is much different. Now, how could Trump actually even go about banning the Tok?
The first one is that TikTok could divest its stake in the U.S. portion of TikTok and, give it over to Microsoft or to give it over to a different company. The other option would be to invoke something called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And that would require Trump to basically declare some sort of national emergency over TikTok and then unilaterally under that, authority, ban an app.
Is it possible? Yeah. They say they're not going anywhere. You got 45 days, how Microsoft pulls this off, but smart thing for Microsoft to do. Notice last week, who wasn't yanked up in front of everybody really, though, compared. You had Tim Cook and you had Bezos and you had Zuckerberg and you had one of the heads of Google up there, and they're all talking about all this stuff that's going on and shadow banning and all this stuff. There wasn't any Microsoft. Microsoft would be getting into a game with something that's already got a head start and is taking hold in America and would put themselves smack dab into a competitive race with Instagram and TikTok. Smart move. And they may get it for nickels and quarters on the dollar. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. It's your Twitter. Tweet at me. Text the program as well. 'Tis the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
What do you think happens if Donald Trump loses?
His term ends at noon on January the 20th. In the Constitution, he'll be stripped of all power. So if he remains in the White House past noon on January the 20th, having lost the election, he's simply an interloper without power and can be physically removed. I hope it doesn't come to that.
It's not going to come to that. Good God. It's just amazing to listen to all sides freak out. Whoa, my God, you have no idea what he's going to do. He's going to do all these kind of things. He's staying in there, and he's just going to take over, and he's never going to go. He's a dictator. Shut up.
I feel very strongly that this man has taken on strong-arm tactics, and I feel very strongly that he is Mussolini, Putin is Hitler. I said that back then, and I believe that. I believe very strongly that this guy never had any idea about being one to peacefully transfer power. I don't think he plans to leave the White House. He doesn't plan to have fair and unfettered elections.
Jim Clyburn there. He's not Mussolini. Putin's not Hitler. Hell, Putin's not Stalin. He's not good. But let's just for a moment come back to the world of reality for a second. Just for a second. We're like, but this is what you do. And this is how it works. You got to say the most outlandish things. My friend Monica. So on Friday, my local show here, my on-air partner was on a little vacation, and so Monica Lindstrom, who's a legal expert, she sat in with me for the show. And Monica, in the middle of the show, or just as it was starting, gets an email from Tucker Carlson's people. Says, "Hey, can you be on our show tonight to kick it off to talk about Ghislaine Maxwell?" So you get 2 or 3 minutes, and you got to say the most outlandish stuff. And we were laughing about that. That's what you do. And politicians have now got that. Like, you got to say the most outlandish things, and you have to say stuff that's over the top to get people to notice you, because that's what it's about. It's about eyeballs. What sells? Strife, fear, chaos. Those things sell. Absolutely. No, Trump's not going to stick around. It's just not going to happen. It's not. Because even most hardcore Trump supporters want no part of any of that. Now, there's some out there in the cult that are already making up that if he loses, it's a theft. But the reality is, just like people on the left are making up already, it's because he suppressed the vote. So it's silly. Where is Trump right now as far as it goes? I got to be honest. I feel like he is right now behind. Now, it ain't over by any stretch of the imagination. You do realize that 3 months from today, we will be voting in some way, shape, or form. It is happening. It'll be Election Day.
You can feel the momentum shift in the presidential race. It showed up in the polls, too, in key battleground states. They show a consistent shift across the board to the president. 6-point shift towards Trump in PA, 4-point to Trump in Arizona, 4-point shift towards Trump in Florida, 2 points towards Trump in Michigan, 1 towards Trump in Wisconsin, although a 2-point shift towards Biden in North Carolina. Forget about the national polls. It's all about the battlegrounds anyway. Most pollsters are undersampling Republicans as high as 10 points.
Yeah, that's real. And it's tough to trust any of those. I mean, last week there was was it a new Pew? I think it was Pew. There's so many damn polls out there where people are afraid to share their feelings. And then you get this article in the Federalist to say that half of millennials believe if you vote for Trump that your workplace has every right to fire you. That's a scary thought process. Why would anybody go out and say anything about who they voted for? That's just ridiculous. Do I think Trump is gaining? I think it's a push right now. I think if things turn the tide in the COVID and we get back to some form of normal way of life before October 1st, I think he's going to pick up some steam and it'll be close. But I do think that he's got a much tougher battle. And part of that is the fact that nobody really hates Joe Biden, and Trump's spending way too much time trying to figure out how to paint Joe Biden as a bad person rather than going after the people on the uber left that will define Biden's candidacy.
Just a little perspective, Hillary was beating Trump in every single battleground state going into the 2016 election. Hillary lost every single battleground state. In addition, national polls showed Hillary crushing Trump. National polls showed John Kerry crushing Bush. National polls showed Dukakis crushing Bush's dad, 41.
I don't remember those. But I do remember, and by the way, Hillary won the national vote. So that's, and it wasn't crushing. She was winning in every poll, and it usually was in the margin of error somewhere around there. So to say that polls are useless would be a waste of time. If I am on Trump's team, and I'm looking at Trump, and I talk to a few of his team members once or twice a week, and we've had this conversation, because they're right now struggling, trying to figure out what the narrative is going to be. And it's tough, because you're in a world where it is much tougher when you're in the lead than chasing somebody. That spotlight burns bright, and you've got a candidate that's hard to define. Calling him crazy isn't a way to win a race. Now, and let's be real, I think we have every right to question what's going on with Biden, because he's had more than a few moments, and this isn't somebody who's had a few moments and you're like, I had a brain fart there. There's been some serious things that you can question. Right? Zero problems with that. I mean, they question Trump all the time. Why can't they question Biden? But if I'm them, I'm focusing not on Biden. I'm letting Biden do Biden. They should say, how do you beat the Bulls? Right? How do you beat some of these other teams that had a great player on it? You let the great player do whatever. Not that Biden's a great player, but you just let them do their thing and you focus on beating the rest. If I'm them, I'm looking over and saying, hey, they want to take him uber left. He doesn't have the power and the strength to stand up to him. And so our thing is, let's get on that. Let's get on that. Let's make that the theme of what's going on.
The Democratic Party has taken a hard left and kept driving. Many of my Democratic friends now believe that socialism, illegal immigration, and abortion are moral goods. They want to defund the police. They want to take away our on-the-job health insurance. They want to make it illegal. Many of my Democratic friends now believe that most Americans, presumably white Americans, but they say most Americans are racist.
John Kennedy, our good friends, always up for something fun. That's where I'd go with this. Just what he said. they want a single-payer system. They're pushing hard for that. They want open borders. No, they don't. They just don't want to criminally prosecute anybody and stop anybody from coming in. But it's not called open border. Call it what you want. It is what it is. There's a lot of things that they seem to want that make you go, that feels like it's this. But is it really? And Biden's going to have trouble.
Will Vice President Biden be able to stand up to them? I don't think so. And if he tries, I think they will beat him like he stole Christmas and run right over him. That's the issue in this race.
Yeah. Can he stand up to him? And I don't think he can. I think he needs them. Because much like with Hillary, that she's going to need that left side, that progressive. So you used to have regular old liberals. Now you look at those regular old liberals out there and those people that are essentially Democrat voters but are not insane. They're now considered centrist or even right. And that loud, vocal, uber, like I'm talking super far left. I'm not talking about people who believe in pro-choice and marriage equality and are union members. I'm talking about the people that are well past them. They're the ones who are loud. They're the ones who have the momentum. And they're the ones who are looking around saying, hey, we want this. We're going to get it, period, case closed. And we're going to do everything we can to shut you up and get what we want. And you're seeing it now with all of the chaos and craziness that's going on outside. This is Dan Crenshaw. I said some really interesting stuff here.
What are we seeing? I think fundamentally what we're seeing is a hostage crisis. You have a lot of violent left-wing mobs, Antifa mobs, saying that if you don't give us power, if you don't give our political wing, the Democratic Party, power, we're going to keep terrorizing your cities.
Still a nightmare in places like Portland, in places like Seattle, not going away anytime soon. What do they want? They want to shift a lot of different things, including, and it starts, I tell you, it starts with language. If I can control language and I can control the media, I can control anything I want. So this cancel culture plays right into a lot of this stuff. Everybody got to get canceled. Everybody's a racist. Everybody's evil. Everybody's bad.
Now, why do I say that their political wing is the Democratic Party? Well, because I find it interesting that Democrats cannot for the life of them condemn Antifa and these violent mobs. All right, whether it's sugarcoating the behavior as mostly peaceful or Jerry Nadler saying
that's a myth that's being spread only in Washington, D.C.
Remember Eric Swalwell said he's never heard of Antifa. Remember the governor of Washington refused to even acknowledge that Chaz existed at first? There's a pattern here.
Dan Crenshaw. He's right. Look, I can look over on the right and say you've got the Boogaloos and you got these alt-right wacky loons that need to go away. That thank God they're sparsely numbered. Oh no, they're not really. If the Klan if they were going to hold a rally today, so let's say the Ku Klux Klan holds a rally today, how many people do you think show up? At best, 50 or 100. This isn't like back in the day when they're marching down Pennsylvania Avenue. How many? How many anti-Klan people will show up? 10, 15 times as much? Absolutely. But we need to call out all forms of it, and that includes the other side. And the other side, this far left, not talking about Democrats, this uber far left, they want power, and they want retribution.
And here's another thing. You look at words from Nancy Pelosi. What does she say? She says, this is all Trump's fault. If we were in power, none of this left-wing terrorism would be happening right now. So their messaging is coming from different angles, but it is very well coordinated. And it's this. They're going to hold you hostage. They're going to hold you, the American people, hostage until you give them power.
And that's what they want. And the Democrats, they need, especially Biden, needs that far left because so many have abandoned Hillary. They're just like, she wasn't an option because she was as much a problem as Trump was. That's why the vice president pick is going to be so important for Biden and how they approach that, because they want somebody who is speaking their language, who does look at capitalism as the bane of all evil. Everybody that's white is essentially racist in some way, shape, or form, that those people need to all be punished, that we need to do away with so much of the system. And it's a small group, but it's loud, and you don't need a ton to affect change. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. They're called Raycons, best earbuds around, period, case closed, end of story. What are you waiting for? E25s. 6 hours playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, more compact design. What's it give you? The nice noise isolating fit. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're on your computer, you're doing a bunch of stuff. Maybe you got a really important video conference call. Guess what? You hear that. Maybe you just want to relax and listen to your favorite podcast, The Chad Benson Show. You get to hear that. Half the price of any of those other premium wireless earbuds on the market. No stems, no wires. It is quick in its charge time, stylish, cool, and comfortable. You will love these. Get yours now, well under $100, and you're going to save. Go to buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
The Asian giant hornet could be quite problematic in a number of ways, specifically the fact that this organism is invasive. We don't have anything like it in the U.S., and the impact that it could then have on our honeybees is really our primary concern here.
So they caught a hornet, an Asian giant hornet. We like to call them murder hornets.
Because honeybees are so important to the economy, they bring in billions upon billions of dollars through their pollination services, through the plants that they're able to allow to grow and for us to eat. We really don't need them to take another hit after all that they've dealt with, and the murder hornets can be quite a problem.
Yeah. It's interesting. So the murder hornets whoop ass. There's no doubt about that. But it's interesting to see the way that bees around the globe have fought these things, the murder hornets. What they do is there's a certain level of heat that the murder hornet can withstand. So when they send out their little scouts, the bees will surround it like it's going to fight it, get on top of it, and then shake and vibrate to the point where it raises their level of heat up to a certain level, which the murder hornet cannot withstand. And then eventually the murder hornet dies. But we found them. So we didn't think they were here. Then they weren't here. Then they are here. Where are they? Are they? And my goodness, can we catch them?
There are individuals who are currently laying traps throughout Washington state, which is the only state where any murder hornets have been found to this point. The traps themselves can attract these hornets from a pretty good distance. And when these hornets are found, they're trapped alive. You can then track them back to their colony and destroy the colony itself.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens, how bad it is. So you've got that. And then on the other side of things, we're still trying to figure out what in God's name is this?
Victoria Dagon and husband John were surprised by a small package postmarked from China in their mailbox near Houston.
I was immediately suspicious. It was not a question. It was not a doubt.
Inside, 4 small bags of seeds. She's a gardener, but never orders from China.
It is very frustrating because we can no longer trust what comes in our mail.
No. You cannot. Not mail, not voting, we can no longer trust anything. What are they showing up? And don't plant them, by the way, because they're probably an invasive species and they're going to take over. I mean, this week they call 8,000, something like that, pythons in the Everglades, an invasive species. They weren't invasive. People just released them into the wild because they thought, I'm going to buy an animal. And they realized, well, that animal's going to get 15 feet long. And so they just go, well, we'll just release them. That's what we'll do. And then they reproduce because it was perfect. Don't plant these things, period, case closed.
Officials are scrambling to figure out if it's just a scam or if they're intended to be seeds of destruction.
Tonight, the USDA is testing the mystery seeds and believes they may be part of what's called a brushing scam, where a seller sends unsolicited packages and posts fake reviews to boost sales.
Maybe, maybe not. By the way, Seeds of Destruction, Phil, that's a new name for a band, baby. Write that down.
I'm on it.
That's a great name. 323-538-2423 is your text line at Chad Benson Show's Twitter and Instagram. Chad Benson Show TV on the YouTube. Have a blessed, wonderful day. We'll do it again tomorrow. Night, night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.